Hello, my name is Tori. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, glad to have ya. And if this is you returning, also glad to have ya. And I like that thing you did, the new thing with your hair, with the thing. Looks good. As you can already probably tell by the title of this video, this is about the ovarian cyst that sent me to the frickin' hospital. This is pretty much just my personal story, and if you can take anything away from this, I hope you just gain a little bit of awareness because I personally didn't know anything about ovarian cysts before I had one. That hospitalized me. And it would have been really great if I had known the symptoms because maybe I would have noticed and not have to have been hospitalized. So to start this off, we're gonna need a little bit of backstory. So I started birth control when I was in high school to help with bad periods and acne. And it did exactly what it was supposed to do, and I had been on it for 7 years of my life. So 2021, so this past year, I was like, you know what, I want to come off birth control and just see what's up with my body and like just let it be natural. I had been on multiple different kinds of birth control over the years. It takes a little bit of time to find the one that's right for you sometimes, and I really liked the third pill that I had tried, but then they discontinued it. It was called Yaz. I guess people were having problems with it, but it worked really great for me, and then I switched to a different one, and I had no problems at all. Coming off birth control that I'd been on for 7 years, I knew that there would be some changes, and the changes happened pretty quick after I stopped taking the birth control. The only good thing, I guess, if you want to call this a good thing, is my libido was way up. But other than that, everything was pretty terrible. I started getting these bumps all over my skin, all over my forehead that I'd never had before, like little pimples or acne. My periods were really heavy and really painful. My mood was just all over the place. It was very uncomfortable for me and everybody else that had to be around me. These symptoms were mostly mild, as far as I could tell, but then things started getting worse. However, I was working long hours in a physical labor job and pretty much just not taking care of myself like I should have been. And so I wasn't really recognizing these symptoms as anything of importance. My appetite decreased an insane amount. Like I just couldn't eat anything, and even the things that I would normally love to eat, I had no appetite for, and I just could barely stomach it. There were even times when I would try to eat and just vomit instead. So that really, really sucked. I was also tired all the time. It was so hard to do anything. But these two symptoms are common for me anyway when I'm going through a depressive slump. So I kind of chalked it up to that, and that's what I was focusing on instead of actual like physical ailments that were going on inside my body without me even knowing. I also had very bad period cramps, as I've said, but they weren't just on my period. They were like just whenever, like all the time. Also, my period was late, like really late. It had been 41 days and I hadn't had a period. And somehow I wasn't panicking or concerned about that. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but since the pandemic started, I just don't keep track of the days. They just all seem to blend together. But then I did get my period after that 41 days, so I was like, okay, good to go. I just thought again, my cycle's a little bit weird coming off birth control. And then I decided I wanted to have a little bit of fun. So I went on a solo road trip 3 hours from home to visit a friend. I felt like I was fine, even though I wasn't really feeling good. I hadn't felt good in like a solid month, but I felt fine, you know. I wasn't throwing up, and I was like, screw it, I'm gonna go. So I drive there, and I had no trouble along the way, other than the fact that I couldn't eat anything, and I thought maybe like, oh, maybe it's just meat, because sometimes I get like sensitive to meat. So on my way up, I only ate vegetarian, but then I couldn't even stomach like a sandwich with goat cheese, spinach, and roasted red peppers. It had like nothing on it, and I just couldn't handle it. So I arrive at my destination, I get to my hotel, and I decide to go for a dip in the pool. When I put my bathing suit on, I notice that I'm looking very bloated on the sides and in the front, like in my lower stomach. I didn't think too much of it because I fluctuate in weight quite a bit, like I go up and down. So I just went to the pool, had a swim, had a good time. And then later on in the night, it was like 3 in the morning, I had to go to the bathroom. So I got up out of bed, and immediately when I got up, I got a cramp in my left side. And I sat back down and I was like, whew, this is a bad one. At this point, I'm expecting my next period soon, so I was like, it's fine, we're good, no biggie, until the cramp just keeps going, and then I'm laying there on the bed, holding my stomach, trying not to like cry, and then almost an hour passes, and I'm like, all right, time to go to the hospital. I talk to the triage nurse and I tell her how I've been feeling, and then I start to tell her about my symptoms, like having no appetite and stuff like that. And they don't have any staff in right now because I'm literally visiting in the wee hours of the morning. She tells me that they'll call me in the morning to book an ultrasound, and I have to come in immediately. So she sends me home, but before she does, she gives me a shot of Toradol in my arm to make it less painful for me. Now, when she puts the shot in my arm, I'm not looking because I didn't want to feel queasy. I already felt nauseous enough. I feel blood just dripping down my arm. And I've never bled that much from a shot before, and my friend who drove me and the nurse that was there literally were both like, I've never seen anybody bleed this much from a needle, like dripping down my arm. So I go back to my hotel room and I'm able to go to sleep. The next day I get the call and I have my ultrasound appointment booked, and I'm getting ready to go, and I start doing a couple yoga stretches and I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling fine. And I think to myself, like, do I need to go? Do I even need to go? But I didn't have much else to do that day. My friends were working, so I decided to go. And I'm really, really glad that I did. So I go in for my ultrasound. The ultrasound tech is looking at everything, and then she decides that we need to use like this probe, which they insert inside of you. And it was nightmarish. That's all I'll say about that. But pretty much as soon as she puts it in, she's like, oh yeah, we got some ovarian cysts. So they put me in a different room, and then a doctor eventually comes in to talk to me. And the doctor tells me that I have a torsioned ovary and that a cyst has burst. What the fuck's a torsioned ovary? And then she says, we have to transfer you to another hospital for emergency surgery right now. Horrified, absolutely horrified. I'm 3 hours from home and suddenly I have to go get emergency surgery. My friend's working, so I call another friend and I'm like crying to her on the phone, and she's like talking me through it, and then I set it up so that my other friend can come and pick me up from the hospital when I'm done, which is who knows when. So I'm sitting there like sobbing, and then this nurse walks in and she's like, a torsioned ovary. I've never seen this before. I'm really interested to see how this plays out. What the fuck? Why would you think that that is an acceptable thing to say? Why would you think that's okay to say to somebody who's about to go get emergency surgery? So they put me on a little gurney and they pack me into the ambulance, and I sit in the back for 45 minutes while they transport me to the next hospital over. And that is where I go under, which is the most terrifying thing to me. I hate hospitals, and the thought of like being put under with anesthesia, being unconscious and you can't wake up and like just completely blacked out. I don't know, that's terrifying to me. But the team of doctors was so nice to me at this hospital. They were so kind. They made sure that I felt safe. And then when I woke up, they were also very kind to me, which I barely remember because I was so loopy. So what I found out had happened, I had an ovarian cyst that burst, and it had caused internal bleeding, and I had been just walking around with that for like a week or two, just blood inside my body. It literally, it makes me so squeamish to talk about. Even just looking at the scars, I like get kind of woozy and like, oh, it's shocking when you see your own body that way. I don't know. So that cramp that I had when I got out of bed, the one that I actually went to the hospital for, that was my ovary torsioning inside me, and that caused another cyst to burst. For my surgery, they were able to do laparoscopy. I didn't have to have a C-section or anything like that, and they removed a couple other cysts off of my left ovary. They stitched up my ovary as well, and then I have 4 stitches on the outside, one in my belly button, which gives me the heebie-jeebies. That really grosses me out. But they're pretty much healed now. I had the type of stitches that just dissolve on their own, but my body decided not to dissolve them and push them out instead, which is fine. It's just the itchier way to do it. After surgery, I couldn't drive home, so I just stayed in the hotel and chilled. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't put my own shoes on. I couldn't stand up on my own. Nothing. I was completely useless, and the pain meds they gave me and pain meds don't mix well. They never really seem to work the way they're supposed to. Yeah, they dull my pain, but the side effects are just not worth it. It's like, sure, I'm not in pain anymore, but I'm in despair. It also really sucked because anesthesia makes me throw up afterwards. So for the next couple of days, I was throwing up with stitches in my stomach. I couldn't even laugh without it hurting. So I'm sure you can imagine how it felt to throw up with fresh stitches. I actually, 2 weeks after my surgery, I was like, oh, I'm fine. 2 weeks after my surgery, I decided to go to Florida on a little visit to my friends. And it was great, and I'm really glad I went, but I was dead the entire time. I was so exhausted, and I was not in pain, but I was really, really sore. It took me a long time to actually feel moderately regular again. Also, a week after my surgery, I got my period, which was really terrible. It was the worst period I ever had. It actually felt like I was having another cyst burst. Like I almost went back to the hospital. But the few periods that I've had after that have been a little bit more bearable, and I've actually recently started birth control pills again. I just went back on the same one that I was on last time because I already know how it affects me and everything. I thought about switching to the needle, but it seems that birth control pills are safer for people that get ovarian cysts and lower dosage as well. So that's what I was looking for, just something to help me regulate my hormones so that I don't get a cyst again. It was a terrifying experience, especially like I didn't know what was going on. I thought it was maybe my appendix since it was on my left side. Like I almost died because I didn't know anything about ovarian cysts and the symptoms. And when I came off birth control, the doctor didn't tell me anything. Sometimes I feel like it was sort of like meant to be that I was 3 hours from home, even though it was kind of scary when this all happened, because it turns out the woman who birthed me, her team is the one that did my surgery, which is crazy. She gave birth to me. Well, my mother gave birth. She helped my mother give birth to me, and then she saved my goddamn life. That is crazy. She brought me into this world, and she kept me in it again. I just thought that was so crazy. That's so weird. Like 3 hours from home, a place I have no connection to. Felt like a full circle moment. I'm glad I didn't die. Imagine I had died on the table. It would have been like, I brought you into this world and I can take you out of it. But now I'm on birth control again to help regulate my hormones and hopefully keep the cysts at bay. Because I never had them, or at least none that were bad or noticeable or dangerous or deadly while I was on birth control. So it seems like the right move for me right now. Other than that, there's really nothing you can do to prevent ovarian cysts, and the best thing you can do is just be aware of the symptoms and take care of your body. I hope this video could be a little bit informative to you, and if you are someone that's also gone through this and had ovarian cysts, goddamn, I feel you. I never thought that they were the way that they were. I thought they just made your period a little bit more painful, like that type of thing. Hell no! This was the most painful thing I've ever experienced in my life, and I straight up thought I was dying. I almost did. I straight up almost died. Basically what I'm trying to say is I didn't recognize the severity of an ovarian cyst rupturing, and I wanted to make a video about it, just share my knowledge. I'm not trying to do this to scare anybody either. I just hope I can make you aware of the symptoms. And yeah, I hope you guys stay safe, keep checking in with your body, stay self-aware. And yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.